you doing, Coach?
Good. Fire away.
Couple quick questions. First one is how did Tolu respond after playing 27 minutes the other night?
Really well in terms of not having a lot of pain issues, and we had a really hard physical practice yesterday, and he did really well in that. So, today we did some shooting in the morning, and I had to make him go back and put his sleeve on, which is a sleeve that kind of supports that area where he had the dislocation because he doesn't want to wear it. So, he's feeling better to where he doesn't want to wear it, and we got to make sure he does. Um, so, I think that him getting back out there last week he had one full practice the day before we played, and you could tell he got tired in the game. When I watched that film, and we watched that film as a team, edits of it for an hour and 10 minutes yesterday before we practiced. And there's so many things we can do better, and yet we're right there with a chance to win on the road, down one with 2 minutes to go against a very good, hot team. So hopefully we made some improvement yesterday.
Another question. Speaking of hot teams, you got Tennessee Wednesday. They had a slow start in the SEC. A lot of that had to do with who they opened up with on the road. But I think they've won 5 straight in the SEC. What's made them different, I guess, of late in their hot streak?
Well, I think they're shooting it really well. The last 2 games, they in the conference, they shot the ball from 3 at close to 50%. And they make the most threes of any team in our conference. They're making a little over 9, I think 9.2 threes per game. They shoot a very high percentage from 3, especially Vescovy at 45%, Powell at 43%. But Ziegler shooting the ball really well, as is Chandler. So all 4 of those guards, and Josiah James had a great game at South Carolina shooting the ball. So he's shooting at a very high clip right now. So they're really shooting the ball great from 3 and stretching the floor. And, and they're playing great defense. They, are one of the top teams in the country at steals per game. And they do a great job on the defensive end, pressuring and denying, and they get a lot of steals.
Theo, go ahead and hop in for a couple.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the defense. I mean, Tennessee, one of the best defenses in the country, obviously Texas Tech. What did you learn from playing Texas Tech that you can apply to playing Tennessee when it comes to their defense?
Yeah, there's completely different, Theo, in that, the schemes are a little different. Both great defensive teams. So one doesn't relate to the other necessarily. But, like we played a really good defensive team in Arkansas in the last game. We've got to screen better. We've got to do a better job, helping each other get open. We've got to be more patient offensively when we are in the half court. We've got to get more fast break opportunities. In the last game, we were outscored 18-8 in fast break up. We gave up too many fast break opportunities. Our transition defense wasn't up to snuff. And then we didn't get enough out of our fast break, especially finishing. We had a few finishes that we did not capitalize on that we need to.
And also, Shaquille Moore hasn't scored in double digits in about 5 games. How's he doing? And is there something that he's been working on to kind of improve his game lately?
Yeah, he's put a lot of time in on his shot, but he's just got to be more. And I told him, you got to be more confident. I mean, I believe in you. I mean, you got my full support. Let's, play with confidence.
John Sokoloff, go ahead.
What's up, Ben?
Hi, John.
So you guys, I think it's like 9 games remaining until the SEC tournament. Where would you kind of rank where your team's kind of sense of urgency is to help booster that resume to make sure you guys, kind of solidify a spot in there? I know there's 9 games to go, but is that something you think of, the like resume boosting opportunities, that type of stuff, and where's that kind of at?
You know what? We really like I said on the onset, we had a very good day yesterday, I thought. And the sense of urgency starts with me. And it was very clear in the hour and 10-minute film session that there is a sense of urgency coming from the head coach in terms of effort, in terms of execution, in terms of desire. So as of today, right now, we have 27 days left in the regular season. We have 9 games to play in 26 days starting tomorrow. So there's not a lot of practice time left. It's about, we've got to really, clean up and be very efficient at both ends of the floor of the things we're doing. And, hopefully getting Tolu a little more settled and back in the rotation is going to help us, which I know it will. But there's definitely a sense of urgency. I mean, it's crunch time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, go ahead.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Rick Barnes said yesterday that Iverson Molinar was a candidate for SEC Player of the Year. Would you kind of echo that he's kind of playing at that level, that upper echelon of the league?
Yeah, we have to win more games for him to be a candidate. In other words, I always vote for the team that wins almost without exception to give someone on that team the Player of the Year. So as of right now, the Player of the Year is going to come from Auburn University. And that's, typically how things work. I mean, is Iverson one of the best players in our league? Without a doubt. But Player of the Year is going to come from one of the top 2 teams. It's either going to be Shibwe or it's going to be, the freshman Jabari.
And I think Iverson only had like 1 shot in the last 5 or so minutes against Arkansas the other night. How do you balance with, like, obviously you don't want to have him forcing shots and you want to have open looks, but how do you balance trying to get the ball in his hands in those crunch time situations, but also not forcing a shot up if it's not there?
You know what? He took 18 shots overall, so he got up plenty of shots in the game, and there were a couple that were ill-advised, that weren't good shots during that game. That being said, he's definitely a guy we want to get shots down the stretch of games. We took a couple bad shots late. Tolu took a shot to top the key that air banked with 2 minutes to go, that fortunately we got back, and he recovered it and made a great pass to Garrison for a dunk. But, we've got to, definitely do a better job of executing offensively against teams that are really good defensively, like we're seeing. Iverson is obviously, a really good player. And he was a little, I thought that he got tired in the game at Arkansas. And it was just hard for me to get him out. I was kind of stuck like where I was a year ago. He played 34 minutes, almost 35 minutes, but he didn't practice the day before, whatever day it was. What day would that have been? He didn't practice on Thursday because he woke up feeling ill, and we actually did COVID tests, and he tested negative. But we wanted to just make sure, so we didn't allow him to practice, and his symptoms went away, and he was negative. But, when he had some symptoms that suggested that maybe it was going to be COVID, something I never tell you guys. But you could tell his congestion, affected him somewhat in that game.
Going forward, I guess, is it something that you're going to try to work, like getting him, 2 minutes here and there on the bench? Is that something that you're going to try to be cognizant down the stretch? Or
it was really hard the other night because of the size differential at the wings. And, I just got to play Rocket more minutes. I thought when he came in, he was, he had a couple quick shots, turned the ball over once, and, I ended up playing DJ a lot more at the 2 in that game, which is something we've rarely done all season long because he matched up better with their 6'5", 210-pound wings that are rebounding on offense. Arkansas is a very unique matchup situation. Like this game, they have great guards at Tennessee, but they're all more similar size to the 3 guards that we play at the 1 and the 2, Iverson, Shaquille, and Rocket.
Steph, go ahead.
Hey, Ben, you mentioned the conversation you had with Shaquille. Was that directly after your Arkansas game, or did that happen another time?
It was actually just relative to yesterday in practice. It was just something that, it's like, shoot the ball. I mean, I have comments, you let it go. I mean, come on. So it wasn't referencing the Arkansas game necessarily. But what I told him relative to the last 3 games, it was mentioned, he's been in foul trouble in all 3 games. So he's played 21 minutes a game the last 3 games, because every single game in those 3 games, he's committed a couple of bad fouls and put himself on the bench by being in foul trouble. That's something he has to do a better job of. It's hard to make baskets when you're sitting on the bench.
We've talked a lot about the struggles you guys have had on the road, but you've obviously been good at home. What do you think your team has done at home that needs to carry over tomorrow at the Hump?
I think we have played well. I mean, both ends of the floor. And Tennessee's a great team, a great program. They really are a hot team, as was mentioned, early on by Paul. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams in our league right now. And we're going to have to play really well tomorrow to have success. They're very tough. They're very physical. They defend. They rebound. They do a good job sharing the ball. Like I said, they lead our league in assists and 3-point makes per game. They're right up there. I think they're number 2 in steals. So they're doing a lot of good things. And they have really talented kids. Josiah James, if you watch that South Carolina tape, I mean, he looked like an NBA player. He really played good. And he's a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He's in his 3rd year now, who is really, I think, coming into his own. And what's going to be tough for us with them losing their starting power forward, he's going to play more minutes, and they're going to play smaller and play him at the 4-some, which really is a tough matchup for people because he stretches the floor so well.
Let's go up to Lexington and Jerry Tipton to wrap it up. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, Ben, I wanted to ask you just generically. I'm trying to put together something about the mid-range jump shot, square your shoulders, go up, take the shot. How much has that fallen out of favor in basketball, and what do you think of that?
Well, you describe it perfectly. I'll have you talk to the team today if you got a minute, because that's how you want to shoot it, squaring your shoulders, going straight up and down. But, Jerry, you've been around the game a long time, so you understand it better than most. I still think there's a big part to it that, is important. I mean, the analytics have come in and it's either threes or layups, but I still believe there's a very important aspect of the pull-up game. And, probably at the NBA level, the best guy at it is still Chris Paul and how good he is at getting that mid-range jump shot and shooting very high percentages.
What makes it, in your mind, it has a very important aspect to it?
Because that's what the defense gives you. If they're, for example, dropping and allowing that to happen. And, Iverson's a great example of it. He's just probably the best guy in our league at the pull-up jump shot or especially the floater. I think he's 3rd or 4th in the conference in field goal percentage as a guard. Usually those are reserved for bigs. And, he's shooting a very high percentage because he's so good at that pull-up jump shot.
Thank you.
You bet.